You see how your girl is looking? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl G here. As you can see, I'm bundled up. Got tissue, literally I'm running through a box right now. So I'm just gonna apologize real quick to you. I know this review's coming a little bit late, but your girl is now a little bit under the weather. This weekend, I went to my niece's birthday party, and it was at Chuck E. Cheese. That was on Saturday. Came back home Sunday, and you know you get that little tickle in the back of your throat. And then literally all through the night, it just started kicking in. My nose was stopped up running at the same time, which is so annoying. And I've just been bundled up in this blanket. And, I'm finally catching up to Married to Medicine, which is what we're about to talk about right now. I laid in bed, watched Married to Medicine, and now, I'm gonna come talk to you about it. But just want to explain to y'all why this review is coming a little bit late. Your girl, it ain't feeling good, okay? But we're gonna still, break down everything that happened this episode. So if you're new to your girl's channel, hey, how you doing? Sorry, this is how you're meeting me, a little bit under the weather, but it's okay, all right? If you're gonna be on my channel, you're gonna have to experience me in all aspects, okay? The good, the bad, the ugly, and the sick, all right? And speaking of sick, Greg, he's sick in the head because the fact that he really thinks that nothing that he did is what, is like what also led to the situation with him and King is just literally like psychotic. Like it really is. Like you really think you did nothing in that aspect to lead up to you and King fighting? Like, come on now. But yeah, you guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Married to Medicine. So we open up the episode. Everybody is back home from, the big hoopla in Florida. I'm sorry if I sound like stopped up, or if my nose is kind of scratchy, y'all. It just is what it is right now today. So yeah, everybody's back home, and we have Toya and Eugene basically at their house, kind of breaking down what happened. And, Toya asked Eugene, had he talked to Greg? And he was like, no, I really didn't, and she was like, oh, I'm wondering if, anybody reached out to them. And Eugene was like, I didn't really reach out because, sometimes when stuff is going on in people's life, you just kind of like want to distance yourself and decompress, which I get it. Because sometimes it is an awkward situation in which, because, Eugene is feel like, well, he left the trip early. So clearly he just kind of needs maybe a little bit of time, on his own to just kind of like, ride through the emotions, the wave or whatever. So I get why Eugene was thinking that. But then Toya is also like, it really would, she's kind of feeling like, well, dang, if nobody reached out to him, that would, kind of be unfortunate. So Toya is back on her, glamorous events, y'all. Now it is time for Eugene and her 16th anniversary. And the theme is going to be Bridgerton based, but a little bit of remix on it, okay? It's now going to be called Georgiaton. And it's so hood fabulous that I love it. Because Georgiaton, Bridgerton, Go ahead, Toya. You know how to throw a good theme party. But yeah, so she wants to invite everybody, but before we can get everybody on the invitation list, we got to make sure everybody's good with each other, So she actually ends up later talking to Tisha in the episode, and Greg ends up talking to Eugene. So in the next scene, we see Heavenly and Quad. Heavenly is, all up in Miss Quad. No, Quad goes to visit Heavenly. And so she walked straight up in the house. She was like, girl, you can't be walking to my house like that. She said, I'm an empty nester now. So shoot, me and Damon could have been getting it on in the living room right here. How many y'all think Heavenly's getting it on in the living room? Like, girl, cut it out. So obviously, Heavenly is checking in on Quad. And Quad is basically just like, this is madness. Like, that wasn't how I wanted everything to end up, but at the end of the day, like, that man was a thorn in my side for the longest. And, Quad had a right to be petty Betty, because if we want to be honest and real about how all of this, culminated, Heavenly, you got a part to play in it. Simone, Jackie, y'all were, what do they call accomplices? Okay. Y'all were accomplices. And so this all became a conglomerate of a mess, discombobulated, because although Heavenly had a plan, guess who else had a plan? Phaedra had a plan. Apollo had a plan. So everybody's now coming to this sandbar and throwing, left, right hooks and monkey wrenches and everything, which is why we got that big old blow up that we did with Greg and Greg and King and Phaedra and Shireen. Bad Bill, bitch. Okay, that she said, you know, got Shaq in the whole situation. But you know, Quad is basically kind of like, you know, this really is a lot, but I want to check in on the girls. So, you know, let's have the girls over and, you know, just kind of do like a quick little girlfriend check-in. Heavenly was like, well, shoot, you know, at this point, it's given Tisha and Greg might need a little bit of distance from the group. And then we're seeing this episode. I don't want to say it's backpedaling, but it's giving backpedaling, pussy popping. I'm not gonna lie. All of you ladies first came on with a plan to shove Quad out last season. That backfired, okay? Phaedra coming on. That backfired. Heavenly, you invited Sweet Tea on to, I guess, you know, help Quad keep her job. And obviously, you know, Heavenly's gonna do what she feels like she can to help the show. But I think one thing that Heavenly often forgets, which is why she always got in trouble running her mouth on these lives after the episode, is as much as you're trying to make reality TV, there's still people's reality, like there's still people's lives within the reality TV aspect of it, you know? So here it is, you feel like, shoot, let's bring on Sweet Tea, let's bring on Greg, you know, we're gonna have quiet, but these motherfuckers ain't seen each other since the divorce, you know? And so to basically look the person in the eye that you really just kind of, you dislike, damn near hate, because Greg is giving, he hate Quad, all right? You know, what we got was what was expected, just the other way around. See, Greg's reaction was what everybody thought Quad's reaction was gonna be. But since Quad, you know, came stepping in, you know, with her king, you know, tall, dark, and handsome in comparison to Greg, okay, be good, be good, be good, you know? That definitely got, you know, to his head. And then obviously throw Quad in there, you know, talking about, you know, he's a good man, Savannah. I love the way, you know, I watch him, you know, raise his daughter. It inspires me to throw it back every day. Okay, that's what she said. It inspires me to throw it back. Okay, I'm going to throw the coochie at him, all right? So, you know, at this point, you know, Heavenly's like, well, do you feel like you can come around the group? You know, like all of us get together. And Quad's feeling like, no, like I don't want to bring King around. I don't want to bring King around. But it's more than just not wanting to bring King around. Obviously, we see as the episode goes on, and also as things were revealed behind the scenes, you know, on some other clips and stuff, Quad talked about how actually as well, in order to be on the show, whatever, there had to be a background check, and they were waiting on King's background check to come in. So you throw that in and mix it with Eugene trying to, you know, call the popo, you know, she said, call the popo. She said, they'll be here in 11 minutes. She's like, good. They give me 9 minutes to whoop your ass. You know, so in this situation, you know, Greg definitely is taking the legal route. All right. So, yeah. Oh, also they bring up Phaedra because, you know, Heavenly asked like who else coming, to Quad's house. And she's like, I'm gonna invite all the girls except obviously Sweet Tea and then Phaedra. Cause she's like, Phaedra, at this point, y'all, Phaedra has literally, you know, road runner, ran up out of here because that clearly the ink dried on Real Housewives of Atlanta contract at this point. And so Heavenly was like, shoot, you know, Phaedra said she don't with us, you know, we mean girls, which y'all can be, but also Phaedra pot meet kettle, because you want to talk about them being mean girls, but ma'am, we ain't forgot your history. Okay. So, moving on. So we have, what they do after that. Who was next? Who next? Okay. So Toya, and everybody does, like a waltz dance practice. Cause Toya, you know, every party that they have, you know, basically it's like, shoot, we gonna get somewhere in there and get the groove on the dance floor. And so everybody's going to have like waltz practice or whatever. So everybody's meeting up and everything like that. And, you know, and everybody's like, oh, like, where's Quad? And Heavenly was like, Quad said, you know, she can't come around the group. She not bringing around the group if King can't come. And so then obviously people start asking, okay, like Sweet Tea ain't coming around. And they're like, well, shoot, you know, we ain't really talked to them since the Florida trip. And, Mimi also couldn't because she was at work. But then obviously people get to start talking about like, okay, how are we gonna move forward? Because Toya's like, I want everybody to be at the party. Shoot, there ain't no way that Quad and King and Greg, you know, aren't able to be in the same room. And like, let's be real. Of all these shows that we've had, you know, and everything like that, and the fact that Greg and King kept it pretty amicable at the trip, you know, before the beef, there's no reason why after that they couldn't be grown-ass men, talk it out. But Greg doesn't want that to happen. I think Greg in his mind also was playing a game. Greg in his mind also was trying to play chess and feeling like he was gonna make everybody choose between him and Sweet Tea, Greg and King, or him versus King. And the fact that everybody chose King got Greg really pissed off and his feelings hurt, because he really thought, because I know these niggas, like these my dudes, I know them for a long time, they were just gonna follow the leader blindly. But all the men are like Damon said, you know, I can't sit there and lie and be like, you know, I support Greg in this situation, because truth be told, if that was me, you know, I'm feeling like King feeling. You know, Eugene's like, well, you know, we gotta think about Gregory's feelings. You know, we gotta consider his feelings, because you know Eugene always loved to try to be like, you know, Switzerland. But Heavily straight up was like, Eugene, if somebody told your woman like F you, basically, like, how you feeling? He was like, you know, yeah, definitely it'd be a problem, because Gregory made sure to reiterate in such a way that he was trying to, you know, boss up on King. And for him to sit there and be like, oh, you know, I hope you the type of man to defend her. I hope you the type of man to sweep off her feet and be there for her and everything like that. And so here it is, you're talking about, I hope you the type of man to defend her, but then when he defend her honor, now all of a sudden you running. Now all of a sudden the cops is getting called. And now when, you know, Toya is asking about like, oh, who talked to Sweet Tea or whatever, and her not being able to be in the group and Quad not coming around with King, that's when Contessa was kind of like, well, you know, that might kind of be a little bit of an issue with them being together, because allegedly, you know, Greg has put out a restraining order. And so everybody was like, restraining order? Like, he put a case? Like, what do you mean? And so Contessa's like, well, you know, it was, like a attempted battery, allegedly is a charge for attempted battery. And so now everybody's kind of like, Greg, come on, Greg, like Greg, it's giving Mitch, it's giving bitch made, point blank period. Like,
who? One word, bitches.
You do know you were actually involved in the fight, right? You do know, like, you and King were equally going back and forth with each other before this. Like, he's trying to make it seem like King was just bum rushing him on some bully shit, and that is not what happened. So now all the men is kind of feel like, yo, what the hell? And so Eugene's like, okay, we got to come up with a plan. So, you know, Toya ends up later talking to Tisha, and Eugene actually ends up later talking to Greg with Scott, right? So they go through the, you know, the little practice party or whatever. I mean, the practice waltz dance or whatever. I thought it was real funny how Haley was like, you know, hey, can't nobody, you know, talk about, you know, your husband and or your wife or partner or whatever, and it not being a problem. And Contessa was like, heavily saying it's a problem to disrespect somebody's, you know, partner. Wow, you know, so obviously the flashback of when Heavenly was all on live running her goddamn mouth, you know, I think Heavenly really is not, because Heavenly feels like she's telling the truth and she's right, which low-key, I think we all agreed that Scott and Contessa was on some bullshit on their last season before they left. And we saw exactly how things were being handled, and they were in a very abusive manner. But Heavenly, you being that woman's friend and then being on live and really just kind of like perpetuating it and confirming it isn't something that a friend would do. Even if that is your opinion, you don't say it on live. You don't put it out there for the whole world, because they're already, you know, taking jabs at her about it and beating her down about it. So you as the friend, Like, granted, you may feel like you telling the truth and everything's right or whatever, but like, Caitlyn, you definitely were wrong in that aspect of it. So I get why Contessa's mad, but also Contessa, you not off the hook, because here you can't keep trying to like come back and act like the shit that you and Scott, had dealt with wasn't on TV for all of us to see. And like that, like there's always, it feels like some of you guys always forget that y'all are recorded, right? You do know this is on candy camera, right? We can go back and see what the hell you said and did. So speaking of, Eugene goes to see Greg. Or no, Greg and Eugene meet up at Scott's house, right? So they get in there, and obviously, they checking in on Greg. Hey, how you doing? What's up? I ain't talked to you since the trip. And he was like, yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I'm a little upset because, ain't nobody reach out to me after the trip. I just really kind of felt some type of way. And Eugene was like, the reason I didn't reach out was because, sometimes for me, it's all about decompressing. I just kind of really want to talk to everybody. So that's, why I didn't reach out, So, Eugene's like, yeah, I just really felt like, it's just a lot of negative energy, and I didn't want to bring Sweet Tea in this situation like that. Yes, you did. Both you and Sweet Tea wanted to come in this situation and get your Lunsford on, okay, Mr. and Mrs., okay? But y'all was playing checkers and Quad was playing chess, okay? And so in Gregory's attempt to checkmate with Quad, you kind of got everybody knocking all the pieces off the board because they not with you, Greg. So here it is. Eugene's like, what's going on? Like, how you feeling? He's like, man, it was just so much. I'm just going through so much emotionally. I came home and I just had to get it off my chest. So I ain't gonna lie. This is what I did. This is what I did. Tell me why this nigga pulled out a goddamn laptop and played a song talking about set me free. I'm tired of the bullshit. Set me free. I don't want to be lied on. And Eugene is just sitting there listening like, what in the actual hell? And it was just like, you can't tell if he's serious or not. But then the fact that Sweet Tea was the one recording, and when he finished that song and she was like, that's good, Gregory. I said, no, Sweet Tea. No, Sweet Tea, because this is wrong. This ain't right. And the fact that you're married to him and he's sitting there making songs about his ex-wife that he divorced 3 years ago, ma'am, that's a little bit of a red flag. So now, Eugene's talking about trying to get everybody together for his party. He was like, that's just not going to happen, And he was like, well, we heard that you tried to take out a charge on King. Like, is that true? And he was like, yeah, shoot, why not? Of course I did. And it's like, on one instance, Greg, here it is, you're saying, like, there's consequences to your action. He bum rushed me, tried to come after me and attack me. So, there are bitches who's like, oh, I don't fight. I'm a call the law. I don't fight, But if the thing is, Greg, that you don't fight, why were you instigating one? If the thing is you don't want to make a bad name for yourself because you a doctor, how Sweet Tea tried to be like, because Gregory's a real doctor, in their little video that they did. If that's the case, why were you instigating one? You literally were up on that man and you got your arms all out and stuff like that. And, I know how you are because I know how your girl is. You definitely were trying to take jabs at King and kind of really do the one-up situation as far as like, banging your chest as a man, So when he was trying to talk and Eugene was like, wait a minute. He was like, so what's the charge? He was like, oh, attempted battery. He was like, but don't you gotta hit somebody for that? He was like, well, no, like you can get pro. He was like, but did he touch you? And Greg tried to blow past the question, and Eugene was like, but did he touch you? He was like, well, nah, man. And so Eugene was like, huh, okay.
Bombastic side eye.
I think if the judge were to see the footages, okay, of what happened between you and King, I'm sorry, Greg, I don't think that charge would land. You and him were both going back and forth with each other. That's the only thing that's just really given bitch made about this, because it's like you're really acting like, as you said, oh, this man, you know how you got mad at Sweet Tea, that man was trying to charge me. You don't know what he was thinking. I think we all know what he was thinking. I'm about to whoop his ass. Just like you in the fight, when you get ready to fight somebody, I'm about to whoop his ass. So I thought you said this was going to be a battle to the death. This was going to be a fight to the death, which means that would have been both of you guys, going at it. So are you saying that King was going to beat you up? Because that's what you're saying. And then in the confession, you're like, as a man, this. And it's like, as a man, you really ain't acting like one. Because if you're going out a charge against King, what you're really saying is, I was scared to get my ass whooped. He would have beat me up. That's how you. That's literally, you're literally almost admitting that King would have beat you up with you taking out this charge and talking about attempted battery. But I thought you was bold enough to, because when you got up out your seat and then walked up to him in a very speedily way, we know it was a pissing contest. And then the goddamn push-ups and everything, all the men knew Gregory was in an uncomfortable way trying to assert his dominance with King. And that's how we ended up where we ended up, with them going back and forth. So, Eugene is always trying to be understanding. And, he's like, well, Greg, is there no way that we could talk about it and everything like that? And he was like, no, like, I ain't gonna put myself in this naked situation. I just want to be set free. All that bullshit. And basically after listening, Eugene was just kind of like, all right then, sexual chocolate. All right then, sexual chocolate.
Damn, that boy can sing.
You must be crazy.
He good.
You must be crazy.
So we get to Tisha and Toya. They end up talking. Toya, Mimi, and Letitia sit down, and obviously she checks in on her and what's going on. Toya ain't waste no time. She was like, girl, what's happening? Like, how are you feeling after the trip? Tisha just kind of feel like, I really needed to get away. All of this stuff can be draining. And when she talking about, filming, being around the ladies, I do feel for Sweet Tea in the aspect of like, you really came into this, one, trying to be petty because you thought you were going to get back at Quad. But two, you really were set up to fail. Because Heavenly brought you in, filling your head up of, you probably were going to have these, she was going to have your back, before, the season started, you were going out with, Heavenly and Jackie and Simone and Toya. Like, Quad was set up for, not Quad, Sweet Tea was set up for failure. You got used for ratings, but a part of you being used was the fact that you volunteered to be a part of this show, and you did it for Gregory to be rubbed up all in Quad's face. And I think you and Greg really don't want to admit that. So now Toya starts bringing up, well, girl, I want you at my birthday party, at my anniversary party. Like, why can't you and Greg show up? And, why can't you go? I really want y'all there, but, we heard that it was some charges. And Sweet Tea was like, well, that's my business, and Toya was like, oh, okay. And she was like, well, what's going to happen? Like, she's like, well, that's really up to Gregory, which it is. And so one thing that Toya did was kind of a little bit unfair, was the aspect of which she was trying to like put it on Tisha to be like you're the wife, you're the helpmate, you're the neck, basically. Like, you can convince Gregory to, come around. But the truth is, Tisha can't tell that man nothing. Because remember, he told her, who you think you talking to? Who you think you talking to? Remember, he thinks he's up here and she's naive. So there's nothing that Sweet Tea can say to that man to make him want to come around. Greg really is shooting himself in the foot for not even being mature enough to come to have a conversation and just be on this show. And every time Toya kind of talks about, Sweet Tea, what do you want? Do you think you could be good with Quad? I think she could. I think Sweet Tea absolutely would not mind being okay with Quad, because she talked about it on the retreat. Me and Quad, we kind of been, amicable and nothing real crazy. I think Sweet Tea absolutely would be down for just a kind of a meeting of the minds. But Greg is stopping all that. Every time she got asked about, well, what does Tisha want? What does Tisha want? How does Tisha feel? As Toya was trying to get to, she was tight-lipped. She was mush-mouth, on mute. And you could definitely tell that moment in which he basically told her, oh, being there for the team means basically taking my lead. She understands she can't say nothing that could possibly piss off Greg and go against kind of how his actions are showing how he wants to go, which is to go after, King. By also virtue going after Quad, in that sense, being petty, in the sense of like, well, if I'm gonna be here, Quad ain't, because, I'll put a restraining out on her nigga. So if he ain't coming around, I know definitely she ain't coming around, And so Toya in her confession, like, it's very crazy to watch a woman just kind of like mute herself and literally just put herself on hush mode for a nigga. And she don't get that because Eugene let her run her mouth 24/7. So Toya's just like baffled, you know? So we get to the end of the episode. Everybody meets up at Quad's house. You know, everybody's trying to be, you know, girlfriends. My girlfriends. Okay. Tell me why Heavenly came down them stairs in a bodycon suit talking about, bitch, you know, I walk on my coochie good. I said, oh, Lord. Contessa came down looking like she was going to a salsa competition. And basically, you know, everybody's down and, you know, Quad's just been, you know, kind of saying thank you to everybody, but she's really upset that King is in this position and she's having to deal with all this stuff. And Toya's like, you know, I tried to talk to Tisha, but it's giving no accountability on both of their parts. You know, they tried to tell Tisha, girl, you don't look good. You know, in these, basically, on that beach, you was acting a plum fool. Now, I don't fault Tisha for running after Greg, you know, because if you see a fight with your man, I think any woman is feeling like, oh, shoot, let me get over there. Because Quad did the same thing. So, I don't fault Tisha for running after Greg, but where I do look at Tisha a little sideways, it's just like, I don't know if it's sideways, because I feel like she has been kind of emotionally beat up to the point where it's like, I'm gonna talk back to you ladies, like y'all not finna like little girl me, baby girl me, none of that shit. So, you know, there's a way to do that, I think, without, you know, coming off just batshit crazy, which is kind of how all the ladies are looking at her. But also, I kind of feel like they're just putting that energy on her because they're looking for a reason to, you know, snip, hoe, and choose Quad, which is basically how this conversation ended with Toya being like, you know, if you're gonna make me choose, and I'm choosing Quad, because at the end of the day, Greg and Sweet Tea, I know they try to tell you that you're the one who's gonna help the show, but Miss Quad is always gonna be married to medicine. Point blank, period. She has been an integral part of this show, regardless of her being married to Greg or not. And so, you know, she told Tisha, like, you know, are you gonna fight for it? Like, I really don't want to have to choose, you know. And Tisha's like, well, I'm not gonna make you choose, but like, that's up to you, whatever. Because she's like, do you want to come around the friend group and stuff like that? This reunion should be very interesting, okay? On Watch What Happens Live, Scott said, you know, the men was, and that never happens, you know, they was butting heads. So, yeah, you guys, all the ladies basically was like, you know, I choose you, Quad. And Heavenly was like, that's good of you, Toya. That's good of you, Toya. Oh Lord, my nose is running. Here we go. All right, y'all. I told you I'm sick. But you guys drop down in the comments. So what you feel about Married to Medicine? What you guys feel like? How you guys feel about, you know, all the ladies and, you know, choosing Quad over Tisha? You guys feel like Greg's bitch made for, you know, calling the cops and trying to, you know, to get King a restraining order? And do you guys feel like, you know, Sweet Tea kind of low-key was played and used? Like, they brought her on the show to use her for the ratings and then, you know, basically cut her off. And I really do feel bad for Sweet Tea in that aspect. But girl, also, you and Greg put yourself in this motherfucking situation because y'all thought y'all was gonna be slick petty to Quad, but then the Quad hit you with that Uno reverse, you know, draw four, I'm out. Okay? But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all make sure to follow my Instagram and Twitter. I'll catch y'all hoes later. Deuces.